Hi there, and welcome to the Future Makers podcast by MAND. This is where we talk to people from scientific and high-tech organizations with a purpose. I'm Angina Herman, and Ida Wein is definitely not hiding anywhere. She's right there in front of everybody, making sure everything runs. Say hi to everyone, Ave.
Hello, everyone.
And today we get to speak with Theis Lien. Theis is the founder of Enua, a Norwegian company that creates chargers for electric vehicles. Welcome, Theis.
Thank you.
So, tell us, Theis, why are you developing EV chargers?
So, I think that this question is quite interesting because you just don't wake up one day and think like, all right, let's do electrical vehicle chargers. You're not kind of born with this idea. It's more of seeing an opportunity and taking it. Seeing from my early days in Tesla and seeing some of the way the world goes. And then we saw an opportunity, some challenges in the current situation, and found a way to improve it. So that was kind of the roadmap to how we ended up doing electrical vehicle chargers.
Okay, that sounds very vague. So the way the world goes and see an opportunity. And so tell us a bit more. What was this opportunity and what's happening with the world?
Yes. So the way charging are done has always been, especially in the early days, a hassle. It's either when you're on a trip, where on the early days it was always some issues when you tried to charge. It was lacking of charging infrastructures, and just the way things were done with how you mounted the chargers were challenging. So we discovered that there was a lot of waste of both chargers and a lot of pain points in how you manage them. And this is some of the new unique aspects that we solved by simply taking the idea of how you use your mobile charger. You don't screw your mobile charger in your kitchen, and then when you're in your bedroom, you're like, it would be really nice to have my charger here as well. This is kind of how electrical vehicle chargers were done. You mounted them, it was stuck there, expensive, and we found a way to remove this and use chargers the way we use mobile phone chargers.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so when was this discovery? So you mentioned you worked at Tesla before. So is this experience you had at Tesla, or how did this happen?
Yes, it was a lot of discovering during that days by reviewing how customers complained about charging, generally being in that environment quite early on. And we saw how things were done. They talked about how they didn't want to install a charger when they were going to move. And it was just a lot of discussion around this charging problem of going to a place, there are no chargers there. They have to always DC charge and plan their route around. And to me, going to a DC charger, especially when you're in your hometown, is just a little bit waste of time. So if we could figure a way to improve that situation and help developing this a little bit better, then why not? So that was how this concept were born, and it led to one thing to another. So not only by using this concept, we are able to reduce tons of chargers. We are able to reduce a lot of cost and potentially a lot of time. Of course, this is dependent of people using this concept.
Mm-hmm.
So the more people using it, the more larger the infrastructure will be. But being one of the first brands who did something like this, I think we have a very good opportunity ahead.
So can you explain a bit more? What is this concept? What exactly did you do to the chargers to make them more mobile?
So the first thing was to figure out how to create a socket. So you can imagine this just like the socket you have at your home. You have this socket in your kitchen, in your bedroom, everywhere. You have the socket where you can plug in the charger, right? So we needed to figure out how to make such a socket also for an electrical vehicle charger, and this is high voltage, so it's not that simple. And we had other things that we wanted to solve, such as if people are going to have these sockets outside, that means that they are you have to make them safe, you have to make them secure, and we also wanted to ensure that other people just couldn't click on and start charging. So not only having a socket, but having sort of a smart one, and also one that will last forever. So the socket itself is actually quite simple. It has an NFC for authentication, and then it's just connection points. That's it. So we had a really large focus on keeping this as simple as possible, because as we all know, technology in 5 years could be completely different. We could have wireless charging. We could maybe even one day have DC charging at home. So this socket should be able to withstand the test of time. And then we, of course, needed the charger. And we knew that to make people actually want to use this system, we needed to make the best charger as well. So we made a smart charger capable of everything that one want with a smart charger, charging when prices are low, load balancing, all these things that are granted today. But also we pushed it a little bit further. We had features such as vehicle to grid, so you can smart charge, connect with solar panels after some time. And also we have different features such as parking radar, things that just isn't been done on such chargers. So this is how we kind of made this infrastructure of the detachable charger and making a smart charger that people wanted. And at the same time making it affordable. We made it in Norway, where we are currently have the headquarter. And all of this combined made us a very competitive priced, good solution, which got a really good traction in the market. So it will be very interesting.
How big was your market to start with?
The market, what do you mean, like the Norwegian
How many
krona?
people were you trying to hit with your chargers? How many, like, how big was your market? Did you only start in Norway? Did you immediately start in Europe, all over the world? What did you do?
So in the beginning, as we all know, Norway was like the hub of EVs in the early days. We were very, very early on. So first of all, it's a very competitive market as well. It's maybe one of the most competitive market. A lot of other competitors there, but this didn't really scare us. We had room. It was such an expansion of EVs there. Almost 90% of new cars sold was EVs. So there was definitely, like, you didn't really have to convince someone, an investor or such thing, that there was a good market, because it was kind of obvious looking at some simple statistics. So we at the beginning we were trying to sell it to regular users. The idea was that they can bring their charger from home to their cabin, but in reality that wasn't the case. We saw that some did, but what actually happened was that people started to mount these sockets around their houses, so that they had one in their garage and one outside. So during the summer, they had the bikes and other stuff in the garage, and they wanted to charge the car outside. During the winter, when there's a lot of snow in Norway, they just put the car charger in the garage. And this unique feature couldn't be done. You would either have to stretch a cable all around, or you just had to park where the charger was. And another thing that was really cool, that actually ended up being our main target today, is for more public larger systems, because they're not going to detach their charger, but we're actually simplify the installation process. Because usually you had to mount this plate and screw on it, and then you had to later get some electrician out to screw this the charger box itself onto that plate. And this was a little bit hassle. Imagine like this huge housing association where you have 100 people living and you have this charge ready plates, and then customer number 43 calls and say, hey, I want the charger mounted, and the electrician goes out, mount it, go back, and then 2 weeks later customer 55, and that's how it went a lot of time. But with our system, it was just for the user to click on and ready to charge. So a lot of time and cost saved on this, and other things as well started to happen. We had this gym that was they had these gyms all around. They had like 30 gyms, training centers, but they only had 3 cars, EVs, service cars, which maintain those gyms. And with the current system that most people use, they would need 30 chargers around these spots, right? And it costs a lot, like 1,000 francs for a charger. But with our system, they only needed 3, and those sockets that they mount are very cheap compared to the charger. So they just had 3 chargers in the car, and we saved 20, or then obviously you can save 27 chargers. And then you're starting to talk money. That's money saved. It's environment saved, and it's time saved. So we're bringing, I think, a lot of new ways of thinking, and it was very interesting. Like I said, this concept was never tried before, so we had to think about how this connection was going to happen. There was some issues where is this even, does the standard allow this? Is it even possible to have this high voltage system detached in such a way? But with some workarounds, it actually was approved.
So that was the Norwegian market then, and you've since expanded to other European countries as well, I think.
Yes, so we currently are scaling in Scandinavia, and then we are scaling through to Europe. And as we are here now, Switzerland is a very it's not the most growing market, but to me it was very interesting. I think both seeing a little bit of my own experience in the country, I just believe that a lot of things in Switzerland had the same issues that Norwegians solved, and also that we solved. And then
Like what?
just came to, like, I will give you an example. I was charging. I drove my EV down to Switzerland, and I had to always. I went into the city, and it was such a hassle to charge in the city. So I had to go outside of town to charge at some other brand DC charging, and then come back to the city. But if, let's say, the hotel or some other place that I was staying in had this concept of just having those sockets, which are cheap and easy to install, they could earn some revenue on that, or some other company could rent their place, and I could charge there, and I would save hours of my time, and they would earn money on that as well. So in my opinion, I think that it's a very beneficial now, as I see there are growing EV market in Switzerland as well. There was a lot of EVs down there, and to make it easier for the people staying there to maybe charge when they're in their office, or not needing to go to that place to charge every time. I think that's a huge advantage, and makes it a lot easier and more granting to actually buy an EV. So that was one of the experiences that I had personally when I was down there. And I think bringing in this type of system is just going to make life easier. Simple as that.
So that's actually interesting, maybe just to share with our listeners that you and I met and got to know each other while you were doing this road trip here in Switzerland. So you were essentially a guy with a van, and you were staying in that van until you found some nice person's house that you could live in. So what was that about? What got you to drive all the way from Norway to Switzerland?
Calling it a van is actually luxurious. It's a coupe BMW, so it was to be honest, very uncomfortable. It's very, very tiny and small. So it was definitely like when I was in a camping spot, and when I was going there, the people were like, "Okay, so where your camping car, or where you gonna stay?" I'm just in this car. I'm gonna sleep in this car. I don't need anything
Okay.
else. And they were just looking at the car and be like, "Okay, interesting, interesting." So to be honest, it was just plain out of curiosity. I always had heard a lot about Switzerland in general, about innovation, and I think that it just spiked my interest to check out if that was the true. Like, why was it a hub? Why is all the big companies there? And I was just really excited. I didn't have an opportunity. Like I didn't know anybody there, so I just had to pack my car and say like, okay, I'm gonna try, see what I get out of it. So I just went down there, and I must say that in the first days I felt like, what have I done? You get this feeling when you're in this place where you just don't know anyone, and you just hope that it's gonna be fine. But I seem to be right. I wasn't alone for a long time. I was incredibly lucky, going to this software coders only, which I found on an app called Meetup, and from there it was like a tree just growing, and my own thought about Switzerland just felt true. It was a lot of communities, people there to share knowledge with, learning, and yeah, meeting people such like you, and and it was a very fresh breath. And I feel like when I'm now back in Norway, I feel like this is lacking here. So
Hmm.
it's a very very interesting place, and this is also why I think it's a very good place to also bring innovation and create things in, because you have these people who actually are interested, trying to come with some ideas, and communities where you can come and ask or share knowledge in. I think it's just a very good company, place to have such company. And yeah, I'm just generally excited about that place. So very good first impression. Or fellow friend Pablo, which I met there, say I'm a little bit biased, that I was very lucky to meet. I would say him. Maybe it's just random, but I would say that I met very very many people in such a short amount of time. So it just cannot be luck, in my
Hmm.
opinion.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Well, I always believe that luck is something that you also make, so you have to be open to the opportunities. And just the fact that you pack yourself in a car and drive to Switzerland without knowing what's going to happen is probably going to make luck a bit more likely than just staying in Norway and hoping for someone to invite you over.
100%, 100%. I agree. You have to make you're able to get that luck. 100%. And I think it was well worth a visit. And I think when I talk to people there, some are like, "But are you sure that it's really a lot of opportunities there?" And I think when you just open the Meetup app and you just look at the waste of things going on, if somebody lives there and try to tell me that there's not a lot of things happening there, they're just not looking for it.
Hmm.
That's just my opinion.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, I've heard a rumor that this trip to Switzerland was sparked some new ideas and new ventures. I think there's nothing official yet, and I don't know how much you can say, but do share what you can. What's happening now in Switzerland? What's going on in the EV business here?
Yes. So as I mentioned, I met a lot of interesting people, and we shared some interesting ideas. And seeing my experience from Norway and the possibilities of what we can do in Switzerland, I think that to say simple, I think that I'm able to contribute with Enua and my experience and the current knowledge to try to help create something in Switzerland as well, bringing a team together. I think it's very talented people trying to see the opportunities and creating an infrastructure that might be part of the key to help solving some issues that I experienced. And to say it simple, maybe in the future I'm able to charge during my hotel stay instead of spending an hour going to a charging spot. So that's kind of the core idea, to find interesting people, bring them together, and see how I can contribute to build up the infrastructure down there, and using Enua, the unique solutions that we have, and expand there. And I think it's a very good opportunity and exciting one, and it just makes me a little bit like excited just to get started. I think it's a really good place, and I kind of, when I sit here now in Norway, I miss the streets and smell of Switzerland. Very nice place. So I'm excited for that. I think that also we as a team will even shortly currently go more down. So I think that Switzerland will be my second home to do this. Will be very interesting. So it's a charging infrastructure idea shortly, which I think will be launched eventually.
Cool.
Okay. What does infrastructure mean in this case, or is this as much detail as you're willing to share at this point?
So the infrastructure is to simply say how to make a scalable system around Switzerland, which are my idea is that we make people familiar with how to use our system or technology, so it's recognizable. And this is why I like the word infrastructure. It's like a railway. You have the train goes everywhere, and you know how it works. This is how I think with the charging. You know how to charge. It should be simple. It should be easy. You just want to charge your car. How hard should it be? That's it. And this is the thing that we want to solve. And I think that, like I said, by using and combining and using Enua's unique aspects, I think we're able to solve this quite quickly. And that's how we will start, and just start small and see how far we can take it.
All right.
Can you share a little bit more about the timeline? Because now you're talking about expanding to middle of Europe, making infrastructure for EVs happen in Switzerland for the charges. You started by developing a product yourself because you saw the opportunity. Can you give a timeline of how long it took and what the plan is?
Yes. So the charger itself and the company ourselves has been soon running for a year here and doing quite well. And like I said, we scaled to Scandinavia and then wanted to scale further to Europe. And we had a lot of discussion to where to go. We a lot of analysis. So, but in my opinion, everything is not always done on paper. You can do all the good checkings and analysis that you want, but then when you try to do something practical, that's when you stumble up the problems, the real problems. Like you're trying to do something and there's this law that just nobody knew about until you encountered it. But seeing how things were done in Switzerland hands-on, learning from people there, I think that I was building a lot of solid networks and knowledge, which I think are highly beneficial. And that changed a little bit, of course, because why go and hunt for other things when you're finding some potential? You have to explore this one a little bit further. And then also seeing what Enua can combining with seeing some opportunities, but also collaborative, finding the people in Switzerland and coming down and making something, contributing to make something there, using Enua. I just had this, to be honest, it was just these people. Most of it is just people who brought the ideas together with me. And sometimes these are worth more than, another huge market necessarily. If you have good people who are interested and also excited like you, I think you can do a lot more than trying to go into another difficult market. So the timeline, I think, would be, I'm always time positive, and I learned during my time that things always takes a lot more time than you plan. Always. And therefore I don't have any very specific timelines. I know that this can take months or it can take a year. It is very hard to predict, but this is something that will be started more or less currently, to say it that way, and trying to learn about the market, seeing potential interest, and it's all about the users, because the users are the one using it. If you find a lot of interest, then of course we can scale faster. If it's harder to find interest, it will take a little bit more time. But I think based on my current knowledge and experience, I think that it will go most likely some months, but developing some prototype or having something ready should be, maybe I'm very positive now, but it should be within this year, I believe. And then trying to see if somebody catches up and like the idea or like what we have done, then maybe we can get some more people aboard, more skilled people, or people that want to contribute as well. Then of course we'll go a lot faster, and that's what I hope for. Technology is about speed. You have to get it out, you have to get it out fast, you have to try it out and learn. And this is kind of the approach that I always have. Get it out, try quickly, get the users to test it, try to like it if there's some adjustment needed. So 100%, we always try to be as quickly as possible, without cutting any hard corners, so that people are happy, no matter if we're doing it fast. So I think the timeline will be months. That's my idea currently.
So talk about finding users. Is this mainly meant for like individual electric vehicle owners, or are you looking more like corporate customers or these housing associations? Or
I think in the beginning, I think that we will try public spaces. So it will be mostly housing associations, office buildings. I think this will be the most beneficial using our system, because you can take a competitor's charger now and mount it on your home. It will work fine as well. But our system is superior in these housing association settings and office places. And of course, if you already use this system on those places, you can also use it in your home as well. That's the thought. Because if the company already uses it, you only need the socket and you have saved yourself 1,000 francs. So it's more that starting with the places where they are really necessarily, and then maybe we can scale it towards the user themselves afterwards.
So for me, the topic of electric vehicles is interesting also because it's so tied to the topic of energy politics in general. So, we all try to use less fossil fuels, but if everybody suddenly starts driving an electric vehicle, then we're going to have some difficulties with electricity. So is that anything that you worry about or discuss, or does Enua have like an official stand on how we should produce energy in the world? How big a part of your philosophy is that?
Well, I think that this is a topic that is highly relevant in all people who contribute to the green technology field. You have to think about this always, that how can you actually create something that is scalable if everyone uses it. And based on my experience from Norway, where, of course, we have a lot of renewable energy, and we don't have any energy crisis such that Switzerland might have sometimes. But it's still what we see, and what I think is that to be able to get further ahead, I don't think people are necessarily going to use less energy. I think it's going to be the opposite, realistically. I know we all try to use less, but just don't think that's going to happen. What I think is that we have to create technology which are scalable and uses the energy smart. And the way that Enua handles this, and what I see in Norway, is that take the chargers as an example, is that imagine if you have the smart chargers such as the Enua, and they are all connected somewhat, and then the government themselves can, in fact, in theory, decide when or when not to charge. And when you are scaling huge amounts of EVs, this actually functions like this huge interconnected mesh of load balancing, right? This is one of the largest reason I think in the future that we should have smart chargers and not just simple chargers, that you have the control to do this. And one thing, like, why will a user let the government use their charger and decide when to charge? One thing that might be in the future and has been discussed in Norway is that if you let the government control it and balance the grid by selecting this during the night or peaks, they can lower the cost. So you will get a lot of cheaper electricity. That's one solution. So you can save a little bit of money. They can help save the grid and make it more reliable. And then you can look at the larger picture. We can make cities and houses smarter by using the battery in the car itself. I think this is one obvious thing that we should do, and this is one thing that our charger also supports, the vehicle to grid. And this might be done. Imagine not everyone's going to have solar panel. It's super expensive. But in the dream world, you can have a solar panel, you can have your battery pack in the car, and all of these should work together to ensure that you have electricity in your car, it's filled when you need it. But if your solar panel are maxed out, or the grid is maxed out, you can get some help from your car's battery pack. And if we do this on a large scale, this is going to be a huge impact on the grid. This can seriously offload the grid much better than just adjusting the peak. And I think that's something that I vote on. I think that we should explore this field a lot to ensure that everyone can charge their car and use all the energy that's available, and also help offloading the grid when needed.
So I'm also curious about cultural differences. So we talked already about Norway and Switzerland and so on. So one thing that makes me always curious about Norway is that it's known as the country that exports a lot of oil, but at the same time you are an EV haven, and really, like, locally, to my understanding, you use an incredible amount of hydropower and generally renewable energy. So how does this match? Like, how do you fit these two energy ideas within the culture?
I think I asked myself this question as well. It's very odd that this oil country, rich of oil, is suddenly the master of electrical vehicles. It's a political decision. That's all I can say. I don't think necessarily there are very specific reasons. There are environmental reasons, which are very smart. I think it was a very smart decision, of course. But the core plan of just giving such huge incentives on EVs, such as driving we let the EVs drive where the buses can drive. We let the EVs be super cheap. And looking at it long term, I think it's very, very good for the environment. It's a lot, just the local thing that it's no sound, when the EVs are driving, it's quiet, it's just no local pollution. And I think even though it's a very odd that Norway, which are very stretched, is a very long country. So that's actually one of the things that makes it a little bit bad for the using an EV, because they are usually the best for long, short drive. But I think since they forced it and they made, especially Teslas were in Norway one of the most sold cars very early on, they forced companies such as Tesla to build out the infrastructure very early on. They used Norway as a test base for a lot of things, and a lot of companies still do, because our infrastructure is very good. And why necessarily Norway, the oil country, decided to go to being the EV experts? Even I can't give an exact answer. I'm still curious about exactly that. But it was a smart decision, I think, and looking at the impact of having this drive of EVs, I think is a very positive impact. And looking at the statistics, very few people are going back to gasoline and diesel. When you wake up in the morning, your car is just ready to drive. Some people can charge at their work. No need to go to a gas station. Like, I don't even remember when I used a gas station the last time when I'm home, just never. It's just a hassle-free experience. And I think the cultural way Norway has handled it, it's just been this, inside of Norway has been this endless war. You have the people driving the EVs and you have the people who just hate them for all it's worth. And it's unlimited debate. But now, when time has passed, I think it just doesn't make sense if you live in the city to drive a super expensive gasoline or diesel car unless you have very specific needs, such as driving on some random mountain roads. It's just better in most ways to drive an EV. And I think seeing the market all around the world, I know that this will be in fact what most people will drive for the next 10 years and ahead.
So what do you think Switzerland should learn from Norway?
I think that to invest a little bit more, I think, to scale. Of course, I say this because I'm biased on this now. But I think that if they make it a little bit easier to charge cars in general, I think that there's a huge advantage because of the way Switzerland is structured. I think it's more beneficial for Switzerland to drive EVs than in Norway, because there's such a small ride between the country itself. So if you have a EV with decent range, you are having a lot better experience driving, and especially like the city drives. I think when you're driving in the city, very compact cities, and you have to stand a lot on idle, a lot of queues in the city sometimes, and people are living there. I think that you're going to get a healthier air, less pollution, less noise. Of course, the people with all the sports cars in Switzerland are still going to exist, but for regular people, I think it's just a win-win for Switzerland to join Norway as well, to speed up the investment. And I know, and I've seen that there are some discussion in Switzerland about the grid. I know it's difficult, it's expensive sometimes, and difficult to get the grid management properly adjusted. But this is why you need to invest in it. You need to invest, you need smarter technologies, and the payoff will be more efficient driving when you need to. I know that the trains in Switzerland are magic. They work really well. So I think that cars are not that necessarily needed all that much. But when they are needed, driving something that is good for the environment and just more efficient is a win-win for me, I think. And I think in general, Switzerland, I can just imagine it to be this. It just makes sense to be this green hub, having smart technologies together with all that innovation in general that's happening there. It just makes sense. And you are at the forefront to drive through the cities. It's quiet, it's silent. In my head, it just makes sense to scale this infrastructure and improve it. And it's just a lot of old chargers there now. It's anyway time to replace it.
All right. So talking about Switzerland's future and the future in general, I think it's time for us to enter the very last question of our format of Future Makers. So you are making the future very, very tangibly in Norway and now soon, hopefully, also in Switzerland. So looking at near future, what do you think the world will look like 10 years from today?
I think that we will continue ahead with making the world more connected. I think that this is something that will go around in everything we see. Of course, we see this in normal technologies. We have the phones everywhere, of course, but also in smarter technologies, such as when you have this seamless experience in everything else, the payment, you go to the train, it's simple. You do all of this very simple. I think that this mesh of connected services is going to expand. And I think that smarter technology, smart cities are going to grow a lot. That's of course, but I also think transportation is going to improve a lot. Also, of course, it's going to be electrical because that just makes sense. But I also think that it's going to be easier to be faster. You know, when you take the charging as an example, before you had to plug in to fill gasoline, then you had to pay with your card on the EV charging. In the future, you just plug in and charge. You use it like your mobile charger. You plug in and charge. You have your phone. You do something, and you're on the train. You're connected to everything. This is the perfect world in my sense. You don't have thousands of apps that you're trying to fix or debug, trying to charge your car or do something. We have this seamless experience, and this is at least what I hope in general, that we are more focused on user experience in the technologies to make advanced technologies easier to use. And of course, I have to bring in AI a little bit in this topic because that's one of my key knowledge or experience. So I think that we will put more of these inside, such as chargers or general technologies, of course, but making them do actually actions, making them do things for you, not just writing prompts, but actually handling things such like the grid, handling things such as when to start, how much to charge, etc., etc. I think there's a lot of things that can be improved even better than some human algorithms, which I think will be beneficial as well. So that's my hope, at least.
Mm-hmm. All right, that sounds very good. Smarter and more connected and more electric.
Yes, very good conclusion.
All right, excellent. Our time is running out, so thank you, Theis. It was a pleasure talking to you, hearing about your ideas.
Likewise, to be here.
And also, thank you to our listeners. And if you like hearing stories from people who make the world a better place through science and technology, you are in luck because there is more. So make sure to subscribe to the Future Makers podcast, for example, on Spotify or on YouTube. Until next time.